Good evening. I'm Tommy Buzzo, and I appreciate you coming out tonight. We're going to spend a little time tonight talking about the stump package, about zone pressures and man pressures out of our 4-2-5 scheme. We have a very simplistic zone pressure system and a man pressure system, and we have the ability to make it more complex and more complicated depending on our kids, depending on how we feel that we need to attack our opponents. But it's really going to eventually go back to our kids of what they can handle with their talent levels and what they can handle mentally. So we're going to let's just take some time. Let's go pretty slow. Let's go through these things. If you have any questions, please stop me. But I just want to share with you what we do. I hope that I say something tonight that you can take back and you can put into your program, into your systems that make you better ball coaches and make your teams better and give your kids a chance to be more successful. Let's talk a little bit about stunning. And I want to give you some of my beliefs and what I believe about stunning. I believe that you can be a good football team if you are a pressure-heavy, stun-happy team. I believe that you can be a good team if you are a good read team. I don't like playing on the line of scrimmage and reading, but let's say more of an attack read. Because I believe in attacking, and I believe in reading up the field, reading as you go. But I also believe more than anything that you can be a great defense if you could do both. You can't do it. You can't be great if you're just a great attack readers. Or you can't be great if you're just a great stump people who are going to bring people from all over. If you can do both, you got a chance. With that, my advice to you is simply this. Stunning is simple. People like to stunt. Kids like to stunt. Playing discipline up the field attack mentality football are sometimes hard. If you give kids an easy way out, they'll take an easy way out. It is our belief that we must be good readers, good attack readers before we stunt. Most often, we will not even stunt in any scrimmages until we get into our first game. There have been times that we didn't feel comfortable at all with our stunt package until we got into our district play. So we're more slow to insert our zone dogs or our man pressures than we are until we believe that we are matured into a mature defense and we have the ability to. Now, I never said that we don't practice them. We're going to practice stunts early on in camp. We just don't put them onto the field on Friday nights or Saturday afternoons until we're comfortable that we are a good defense and our attack read scheme. And now we got a chance when we add our last phase, which is our zone dogs or our man pressures. Let's talk about understanding personality. And let's talk about understanding your personnel. The personality of your kids are going to dictate what you want to go to. There are a lot of advantages to be in man pressure teams, and there are advantages to be in zone pressure teams. And there are even more advantages to being able to do both. But you have to identify what kind of kids you have. Understand the difference between man pressures and zone pressures. And understand what best fits your kids. You have to make a decision in your zone pressures. Are you willing to vacate a zone? Or you always want to be 3 deep and 3 under? Or you're willing to drop a defensive lineman to be sure that you have your 3 under, and you're going to have to do it when you overload. Let's look at pressures a little bit. If you're only bringing 1, then it's very simple. You can be 3 over, 3 under in your zone pressures without dropping a defensive lineman. You can bring 1 from anywhere on the field and just simply vacate that zone if that's your belief. It's not our belief. We're always going to be 3 over, 3 under. But you can bring a pressure from the boundary and give up a flat. Bring pressure from both sides. If you're bringing pressure from both sides, I strongly believe that you have to be in some form of man coverage. If not, you're going to give up something. And we work too hard for what we have. And I don't want to give up anything. So if we're bringing pressure from both sides, we're going to be in a man scheme. Overload one side. We love to overload one side. We want to bring more from one side than our opponents can block. If we're going to overload one side, we have to be willing to drop a defensive lineman to become 3 over, 3 under. Now, guys, I'm going to talk about this in just a minute, but we're not going to be 3 over, 3 under versus a run. We are going to read an offensive lineman for run or pass. We are not dropping a defensive lineman versus a run. We get a pass read, we're going to drop and try to become 3 over, 3 under. Planning and adapting. We must look at our personnel and our personnel's ability. We just talked about that. What are our mental ability? How intelligent are we? And what are our physical capabilities of a team? As coaches, it's our job to find a system, a scheme, a game plan that gives our young men a chance to be successful. We have to look at our personnel when we plan. I'm looking at my personnel right now for next year. I'm making our plans right now for next year. I will revise my plan often. I will revise it this summer. I will revise it in camp, and I will revise it on a weekly basis. It's my job to make sure that our kids have a chance to be successful. Make a plan, set your goals, revise often. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. When you get involved in pressures, when you're bringing any kind of zone pressures or man pressures, it can't be the same. The most common mistake made in pressures is you've got kids misaligned, people doing something they shouldn't be done, and it's because of formations. If you attack offenses and keep it simple, stupid thoughts, you're going to be able to align properly. We're very simplistic in our pressures because we want to be aligned. We want our kids to have a chance to be successful. They must align properly. I've traveled around and I've studied with a lot of good ball coaches. And I've looked at these zone packages that are just all over. They're bringing pressure from everywhere. Well, what is your system? How much time do you have to teach your kids? How much study time do you have with your kids? And what is their ability to learn? Yeah, I think you have to adapt that as coaches to be sure you give them that chance. We're more simplistic because we don't have that much time to deal with our kids. But I think you can take the little things that we're going to talk about tonight and you can expand it as big as you want. I'm going to name the defense because we are a 4-2-5 defense. One snap we may come out and we'll have 2 high safeties and we'll look like kind of a bastardized 4-3. The other snap we may come out and we may have the middle of the field closed and we'll look straight up like a 4-4 defense. But you have to understand our naming system so you can understand how we bring our pressures. We have 2 corners, and they are interchangeable. In my coaching career, I've had field corner, boundary corner, right corner, left corner. Shoot, one time I had a sideline corner because we wanted one corner on our sideline so we could yell at him every time before the snap. So those guys are interchangeable. We have a strong side outside linebacker called the Sam. We have an inside strong side linebacker we're going to call the Mike. Our weak inside linebacker we call the Will. Now, this defense was evolved way back when we were a straight 4-4 defense. If I had to do it over today, I would not call that guy the Will. I would call him the adjuster because in any kind of 3-by-1 sets, he is going to go to the strong side. So I don't know if I had to do it over again, I would call him the Will. In our cover 3 package, we have a whip, which is our weak outside linebacker. We have 2 defensive ends, 7 tech if there's a tight end, 5 tech if there's not. We have a 1 tech, which is our nose guard, and a 3 tech, which is our tackle. In our cover 2 package, it should look very similar up front. We've got our 2 ends, our 1 to 3, our Mike strong side, our Will the adjuster on the weak side. Our whip, our weak outside linebacker, now comes back to about 8 or 10 yard depth on the hash. He plays our weak half coverage. Our corners now move to the outside up to about 1-by-6 on the outside to leverage in our cover 2 package. Now, you're going to hear me talk throughout the whole package of a 31 or a 13. 31 is our overfront. 13 is an underfront. The first number in our call is going to go to the strong side. The second number is to the weak side. So we're a 4-2-5. We're an over-underfront defense. We move post-snap and pre-snap between the 2 over and under fronts. We play cover 2, we play cover 3, and we play a mixture of both, and we move between our coverages. But this is not a talk about our base defense. This is just a talk about how we bring pressures and how our stunts. So let's go ahead and get involved and talk about some of our stunts. And our zone pressures, we're going to come from the too high safety look. Now, depending on who's stunning and where we're going to change, somebody has to replace. The zones that we're going to have to cover are curl flat on both sides, middle zone, middle third, and deep third. And depending on who's stunning and who's taking care of, replace the stunner, those are the zones we're going to cover. And one high, our cover 3 look. We're going to use it. I don't mind at all coming from a one high safety and closing the middle of the field and bringing man pressures. It's important that we number outside in. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Be very simple to come over here and have a trip set and have 1, 2, 3. Somebody's got to be responsible for locking number 1. Someone's got to lock number 2. And in any kind of 3x1 sets or trip sets, someone has to lock number 3. This is our plan. This is what we do right now in our football. It's keep it simple, stupid. We've really broken them down into 2 categories. We do have zone pressures and we have man pressures. Man pressures, zone pressures. We have what we call season stunts and we have what we call game plan stunts. Our season stunts are stunts that we put in early and we work often. The most important thing to be repetitive is to be sure that your young men are aligned properly. You have to adjust. You have to be able to adjust to formations. If you've got 52 stunts, or more realistic, you have 12 or 13 stunts, I believe you're going to get yourself in a bind and misaligned. So we have some that we'll bring from anywhere against any formation. We have some that we are weekly stunts that we game plan. We're going to game plan these against a few of their base formations, and we're going to have the ability to check out of those stunts if they give us a formation we don't like. So we have stunts that we put in early on in August, and we work all the time against all the sets, and then we have stunts that we're going to put in on Monday that we can check out of if we don't like the formation, because again, I just don't want to beat ourselves. I want to attack our opponents, but I don't want to get in a situation where we have a mental mistake and we beat ourselves. Call on the stunts. If we call a zone pressure, we're going to call that by a natural disaster. All of our pressures are 3 over, 3 under. If we're going to bring a man pressure, we're going to give it an animal name. It may be a long stunt that we piece together, but we're going to condense it down and call it by an animal. And those are going to be a lot by the weekly basis. Guys, I'm going to go through, and we have a ton of stunts that we teach. Rarely will we ever go out and call just a simple single inside linebacker stunt. But we have to have them so that we have some arsenal to choose from when we get into our weekly game plan stunts. So I'm just going to go through a few stunts. I'm going to show them up there. I'm going to go through real quick of the slides, show you what we have in our arsenal. And again, these aren't stunts that we routinely call. These are stunts we have that we can cut and paste and come up with stunts. We're going to stem. And our term, we're going to call it bounce, but most of you guys are going to refer to it as a stem. Again, we are moving our defensive line from an over front to an under front, or an under front to an over front. And if we are bouncing or stemming, it's done pre-snap. It's done before the snap of the ball. We try to give our kids something to look at to do it. If you are under center, or if our opponents are under center, we're going to move when the quarterback puts his hands under the center. If you're in the shotgun, it may be on the quarterback's leg. We'll find some key. We'll study our opponents to find some key to tell our kids, our players, when they should be moving and changing from an over and under front. And that, again, that is pre-snap, the stem or the bounce. Tag is on the snap. Again, we are in 31, so we are in a over front, and on the snap of the ball, we're going to move to an under front. If I back up to the stem, you'll see that we're moving from a 3 to a 1, so our 7-tech must ear-hole that tackle, because I don't want to give it. To me, from a 1-tack to a 7-tech, there's too much area there. So we just condense that area by taking our 7 and ear-holing that tackle. The same thing on the tag. which is a post-snap movement, we must ear hole to reduce that space given up by the 3 tagging into a gap. Twist. The 5 tech is going to twist over and cancel B gap. Now, we're going to do that in a lot of stunts. We'll do it in a lot of game planning when we're attacking specific offenses. But again, we must put it in early so we have something in our arsenal to cut and paste as we put together packages for our weekly plan. Smoke. 319 smoke. 31 tells us we're in an overfront. 3 tack to the strong side, 1 tack to the weak side. The 9 tells our 7 he moves out in place a 9 tack. We now must take our Sam linebacker. We must move him back inside to compensate, to make our defensive end, who's moved out to a 9, we got to make him right. Pre-snap right. So we had to move him back in. On the snap of the ball, the 9 tack comes back into play 7. The Sam linebacker drops back out and plays his normal alignment. Just trying to create some kind of conflict or some confusion out there for the offense. Blaze. Now we're taking the 7 tech. We're moving him on the snap, post-snap, to a 9. We have to make him right. So we got to take our Sam linebacker and move him back in into a 70 alignment. 7 tech, inside shoulder of the tight end off of the ball. Twist fire. We are canceling with our 5 tech and bringing our wheel linebacker on the outside edge stunt. It's a very good pass stunt. It's a good way to create a very simple pressure on the weak side. It's not a very good run stunt. They run the football back over to the strong side, we're a linebacker short. 31 tag Mike. I'll put this in for this. 31 shows that we're in an over front. Tag is post snap, so we're moving from an over front to an under front. Our 7 tech ear holes to reduce the area, and the Mike backer runs into B gap. Now guys, I'm going to be honest. In our system, we're not going to call 31 tag Mike. I'm not a big believer in just bringing one linebacker, but we have to have a Mike stunt so that I'll show you here in a few minutes how we can package together our weekly stunts. Tag wheel. This is the exact same thing to the other side. You can see that we are in a 31 tag. We're in an over front. Tag tells us post snap we're going to an under front, and we're just bringing our weak side linebacker. Here we're bringing both inside linebackers. I can't remember the last time we brought both inside linebackers. I'm not a big believer in bringing both inside linebackers. But guys, you have to have something installed just in case you're grabbing for something that's not there, or you have to have something to reach back and try to get in. So you're bringing both inside linebackers, but if you do the numbers game, they got enough to block those 2 inside guys. I'm a much bigger believer in overloading one side is to bring in guys from both sides to the inside. Go. Outside linebackers coming off the edge on a go stunt. Go strong, go weak, go right, go left. Pressure off the edge that fits into your game plans. Ego, taking the weak outside linebacker and twisting him around and canceling and filling inside a big gap. Storm. Storm's a pretty good one. I like it to the strong side better than the weak side, but all we're doing is we're taking our 7 tech, crossing the face of the tight end, pushing upfield for about 3 steps. If he gets a pass read, he's now going to drop out and play flat coverage, and we're bringing the Sam linebacker underneath into C gap. To the weak side, it's just the defensive end up the field to the flat on the pass read and try to get the weak outside linebacker underneath. Weekly stunts, things that we're going to look at, things that we feel like that we have an idea to attack. Down here, we're going to talk about things we're looking for, but this is what we want. We're probably going to mug a backer. It means we're going to bring a linebacker up, try to show us up from one side and bring it from the other. In your pass protection or in our opponent's pass protection, if we can get a chance to force a remike, we want to do that. If we get a chance to show them a stunt and have them change their pass coverage in a quick fashion, I feel like that's a win for us. We want to bring one more than they can block. Again, it goes back to my philosophy of overloading a side. And we want to identify who we want to attack. We want to attack the weak in pass pro. More often than not, we would like to find out who the running back is assigned to in pass pro, and we want to attack that running back. It may be alignment. We want to find what we feel like are the weak, and then we want to attack the weak. We got to identify the pass pro and bring one more than they can block and find a way to make them reset their pass protection. And those are just some things we like in our weekly stunts. We like buzzwords in our weekly stunts. Like here's a game plan weekly stunt. We got 31, bounce, tag, will, weak, go. Now, I would never call all of that. But I know that I'm bringing a ton of people. I know that I want to make it a man coverage, so I'm going to give it an animal name. 31, bounce, tag, will, weak, go is simply Falcon. And that's all I have to call in is Falcon. So let's look at this stunt here first. 31 is an overfront. Bounce is our term for stem, so that's movement pre-snap. So we went from an overfront to a pre-snap underfront. Now we're going to tag back, and that's a post-snap. So now we're coming back across after the ball snaps on a post-snap, and now we're back in 31, which is our overfront. We're bringing a weak inside linebacker and a weak outside linebacker, so now we're bringing two, which is one more than they can block. So we've created a ton of defensive line movement and bringing two more overloading one side, and we're playing man coverage. So let's look at Falcon. That's all we call. 31, 3 tech to the strong side, 1 tech to the weak side. Bounce. Pre-snap, we go over to an underfront. Tag. Post-snap. On the snap of the ball, we come back across. We bring our will linebacker on a stun in B gap. Our whip is coming on a stun off of the edge. So now it comes down to matching up. We got to match up because we are man stun. We are corners locking 1, corners locking 1. Free safety is locking number 2. And our inside linebacker is locking the back. Now, we have an outside linebacker now responsible for blocking a back. So now we've got the Mike linebacker is locking back this way, and our Sam linebacker is taking more of an inside drop, and he's locking man-to-man backs going his way. Again, you've got a number of your receivers. 1, 2, 1, and one of these here are going to be number 2. One of these here are going to be number 3. Back to the buzzwords. Back to our game plan, game stunts. We have 13, tag, Mike, Storm, Strong. Again, nothing I'll call. But we're going to get into a 3 over, 3 under. We're going to name it by a national disaster, so we'll call this one Hurricane. Again, let's look at this stunt. We are 13 tag. We are in an under front pre-snap. Post-snap, we are moving to an overfront because we're tagging. We're bringing our Mike linebacker. We're bringing our strong outside linebacker in the storm stunt, and then we're going to drop our defensive end if he gets a pass read. Let's take a look at it. All right, let's start over here. All right, we're playing base defense. We are in a under front with a 1 tack and a 3 tack. We are tagging, so we're going from an under front to an over front. We are bringing the Mike linebacker in A gap. We are bringing the Sam linebacker on that storm stunt in here to C gap. Our defensive end is crossing the tight end, pushing up the field for about 3 steps. If he gets a run read, he's staying. If he gets a pass read, he now drops to the curl flat, and he's our curl flat player. We have our curl flat player on the backside because we're going from a 2 shell. We're rolling down to 3 under, so we got a curl flat player. Our will linebacker drops, becomes our middle zone player. So we're a deep third, rolling deep third, curl flat, middle third. Now I've got one other thing on this slide, and I'm talking about the mug linebacker. There's a good chance that we're going to take this linebacker and we're going to get him up in here somewhere, and we're going to pretend like he's going to stun him. We're going to mug him up to the line of scrimmage as if he was coming. We would like to be able to get either the center or the quarterback to shift their pass protection to account for that linebacker and overload one side. Let's talk about season zone pressures. Now, guys, I want to go back and I want to talk about keep it simple, stupid. And I know I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but it is so important to me about not beating myself. And I think that there's a lot of people here that feel the same way. In your season stunts, if you can get into a system or you can choose your stunts where your kids can align properly every time against all the sets, then I think you've got a chance to have this game beat. And you've got a chance to be very effective and efficiently and play good defense. In our system, we will have 2 man pressures and 2 zone pressures. And we're going to work those all season long. We may not use them early in games because we're going to be patient with our defense, and we're going to wait till it matures, but we're going to put them in early. And we're going to use those against any kind of formation or anything we see, and our kids should be expected, and I expect us to be aligned properly. But let's look at them. Again, we were all 3 over, 3 under versus a pass. Our zone pressures, we must be prepared to drop a defensive lineman because we are going to overload one side. It's what I believe. I believe in bringing one more than they can block, and we're going to do that. So we have to be prepared to drop that defensive lineman. We are going to move defensive linemen sometimes 2 men over. So we have to be prepared, and our kids have to be coached to read the guy they're going to. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in the next slide. Let's talk about our first zone dog, Cyclone. Cyclone is what most people are going to call cross dogs. You know, we would call it cross dogs, but then we'd be a man coverage because we would use an animal. So we're going to give it by a natural disaster, and we're going to call it Cyclone. We like to bring the Cyclone off the boundary. For no other reason as if we have to drop a defensive lineman, I will prefer to drop a defensive lineman into the boundary as opposed to the field. Now we can bring Cyclone in the middle of the field, we can bring Cyclone to the field, or we can bring it into the boundary. I just put that there because that's our choice. That's where we would like to bring our pressures. And again, we're 3 deep, 3 under. Our will linebacker is going to line up in a cover 2 look, and he is moving slightly pre-snap back in the box. He is going to be stunning A-gap strong, so he will be the guy that goes first. The Mike linebacker in the cross dog fashion will be the second stunner. Now, the Will has nothing. He is gone. We want our Mike linebacker to be a little more patient and read backfield flow. If he gets flow away from where he's stunning, he reads out. When I say read out, it means he doesn't go on his stunt. And I'm going to show you in the slide what we're talking about. But let's go here. We want the whip. He becomes the boundary hash player because we're showing 2 deep and we're rolling to 3. The free safety goes to the field. Now here's an exception. No, if we are any kind of 3-by-1 set or a trip set, we're going to switch and we're going to let our Mike linebacker go first. Our will linebacker or our adjusting linebacker must be out of the box or at a bare minimum a 50 technique. And he is going to be moving back in a little slower. So we'll let the Mike go first in the cross dog action when we have trips. Let's look at a slide. Cyclone, natural disaster, 3 over, 3 under. So we're showing 2 deep, and we've got all these zones we have to account for. Let's start here with the nose guard. The nose guard is moving all the way out to C gap. Now, when I said earlier, 2 slides ago, I talked about reading the lineman they're going to. He is going to read that tackle. If that tackle is in pass pro, he goes all the way out and replaces the defensive end. If it gets a run read, if this tackle blocks this defensive end, then the nose guard will fill in the big gap. If he is going and he has a butt cheek, he is going to fill inside that butt cheek. We're straight up on the backside. Remember, we're showing cover 2. The will linebacker is coming back in the box and he goes first. The Mike linebacker in the cross dog action will read out. He gets flow this way, he runs A. He gets flow this way, he reads out and doesn't stunt. Now this defensive end is reading that tackle. If he gets a pass read, he now becomes a curl flat player. If he gets a run read, he plays his normal technique. We are only 3 over, 3 under versus a pass, not the run. Third player, curl flat player versus a pass. The whip from the boundary hash must work and become the middle zone dropper. Free safety works back, middle third. Sam linebacker plays his normal core flat, and the corner works inside and plays his normal 3 deep and cover 3. Tornado. Tornado for us is a field blitz. I've heard it referred to as the All-American because everybody does it. I've heard it referred to NCAA because they all do it on Saturday. All right? But we like to bring this one from the field. Again, it is 3 over, 3 under. The free safety goes to the boundary hash. Now this is a switch. We're going to switch our free safety and our whip, our weak safety, because I want them to do things they're accustomed to doing. You're going to see in a minute that if we would have put the free safety to the strong side and the weak safety to the weak side, we would want our free safety to roll back down the box and play curl flat. We would want our whip to roll back and play middle third. Now those are 2 things those young men are not coached to do. So we're going to flop them. We're going to send the free safety to the weak side, the whip to the strong side. Now we're rolling the whip in the box. He's playing curl flat, which he's very accustomed to doing. We'll take the free safety and bring him back to the middle third, which he's very accustomed to doing. We're blitzing the Sam linebacker, and the whip is responsible for curl flat, which we just talked about. Let's go to the slide. Now we got tornado. We won't call 31. You know, we'll just use the buzzword, which is our we have a tornado. So let's look. Field and boundary. I know it's all up to the middle of the field. Let's go back. Remember, we're switching the free safety and the whip. Let's start up here. The nose guard is coming from a 1-tech all the way out to the edge of the tackle. But he's reading that tackle. If he gets a butt cheek, he fills inside because he's getting a run read. The defensive end will go up. If he gets a pass read, he becomes a curl flat player. Corner is deep third. Free safety rolls back to the middle. The will rolls back and becomes a middle dropper. Sam linebacker's on a stunt. The weak outside linebacker, or the whip, now replaces the Sam and a cover 3 look to the strong side, and a corner goes to a deep third. Now our 7-tech is coming all the way over to A gap. Again, he's reading the lineman and he's going to. I don't want to keep going over, but it's really, really important that we understand, or that I do a good job of trying to get my point across, that he's only going over 2 men if he gets a pass read and he doesn't get the run read. If he gets the run read, he's going to fill in here. If he gets a pass read, he's coming all the way over to A. The 3-tech is crossing the center's face, and he's going over to replace the 1-tech. If he gets a pass read, he gets a run read, he's coming into A gap. Let's move on to man pressures. Again, we only have 2 that we have what we call our season. We're going to look at, and we're going to talk about our man pressures. Corners must show 3 and lock 1. Our Sam and whip linebacker must show 3, cover 3, and they must lock number 2. Now this is a change if they're on a stunt. Our Mike and Will inside linebackers are going to lock the backs. Again, this is a change if they're involved in a stunt. Our free safety is the guy that has to make us right. He has to understand what we're doing and who's coming, and he's the guy that makes our stunt package go in our man pressures because he makes us right. Let's look at Badger. Badger for us is a weak side stunt, bringing 2 from the weak side. All right, so we got 31 tag Badger. We won't call it, but just so you have an idea. 31, we're in an over front. Not pre-snap, but post-snap, we are tagging to an under front. So we're bringing our whip and our will. So we're bringing our 1-tech, our 5-tech, our whip, and our will. So we're bringing 4 players off the weak side. Our free safety has to lock number 2 weak. And if they give us a 3-by-1 set, the free safety now locks number 3 and trips. So it should look simply like this. The corners lock 1. The weak outside linebacker, the whip's on a stunt. The free safety locks and locks 2 weak. We are tagging from an over front to an under front. The defensive end that's not drawn will be ear holing. The Sam linebacker is rolling down and locking number 2, and the corner's locking 1. So corner locks 1, corner locks 1. Outside linebacker not on a stunt, he locks number 2. In this case, it's a tight end. The whip is on a stunt, so the free safety must make him right in lock number 2. The will linebacker's on the stunt, and the Mike locks the back. Cobra. Cobra is an all-out stunt, and it brings edge pressure from both sides. It's probably, per stat, our best stunt, but it's our most dangerous stunt. If we've given up big plays on vertical routes, but it's kind of, live by the sword, die by the sword. You bring a ton of pressure, you create a lot of havoc, but if they get you on a vertical route, you're locked man-to-man across the field, and they can hit it pretty quick. Let's look at Cobra. Sam and Whip are coming off the edge. Your defensive ends are canceling B gap. Your free safety's got number 2 strong, and your will has number 2 weak. Your will also will lock number 3 versus trips. And again, that's a change. If the will is not stunning, he always has number 3 in trips. If he is stunning, then the free safety has to make him right. Here's our stunt. Sam linebacker off the edge pressure. Whip linebacker off the edge pressure. Our defensive ends cancel B. Defensive end cancels B. 3 tech cancels A. Corners lock 1. Free safety locks 2. The will linebacker locks number 2. If there was a twin set out here, then the will linebacker would come out and lock number 2. Mike linebacker locks the back. Again, if that's 1, there's 2, that's 1, that's 2. If we had a twin set, the will linebacker would come all the way out and lock number 2. Guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me. I want you to know that we've talked just a little bit about our stunt package, but there's a rhyme to reason to what we're trying to accomplish in our 425 package. I do have some other videos out there that are of interest to you. I have our 425 or simple 4-4 package, volume 1, which is going to really focus and concentrate on the defensive line play. We are full-out penetrators. We believe in playing with 11, and we want to play in our opponent's backfield. Volume 2 is the inside linebacker play. We want to play with slow reading inside linebackers and fast reading outside linebackers. And then volume 3 is our breakdown of our zone coverages, of how we max out and how we move around and change our coverages to disguise and try to defeat the quarterback. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. I've had a great time. I hope that I have said something that you like. I hope I've said something that you were intrigued by. I hope there is one thing in this presentation that can take you back and can make you better ball coaches and can make your kids better and give them a chance to be successful. Man, thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight. Have a good night.